Everyone knows that with a new edition of D&D, or a new half edition, some things have to hit the cutting room floor. Now, not too many tears have been shed for Thaco or anti-level Dragon's Breath, but sometimes the things left behind are pretty cool. We don't want to dive too deep into mechanics and rules yet. So instead, we're going to look at 5 monsters that didn't make the cut for 5e. Although with a new monster manual on the way, maybe a few of these terrors will find their way back to the world of D&D. Or more likely, some intrepid DM out there will homebrew 1 or 2 of these fun and fearsome creatures out of extinction. It's possible some of you might not have heard of the horrible servants of chaos called the Slod. The Slod are strange frogmen from the plane of Limbo, separated by color from the lowly red Slod to the terrifying death Slod. These foul, extraplanar threats reproduce by truly bizarre means. A red Slod will plant eggs in a victim and leave them to burst a blue Slod out of their chest like a xenomorph. Meanwhile, a blue Slod can inflict a terrible disease that turns a victim into a red Slod. If either victim is a powerful caster, you might just end up with a green Slod, which can then evolve into a gray Slod. And finally, the dreaded death Slod. But in other editions, this grim procession went even further, and the Death Slod could eventually evolve again into a terrifying, time-hopping White Slod. The White Slod were obsessed with chaos even more than their multicolored compatriots, and were able to wield the strange, raw element version of it that could tear just about anything to shreds. But that wasn't even its coolest feature. In combat, a White Slod could use its powers to break through time itself. The creature would summon duplicates of itself from across its life. Some versions younger, other versions older. Some truly ancient White Slod grew into incredible power, like Norsar the Many. Norsar was a White Slod that could summon so many temporal duplicates they could bolster entire armies. It's easy to see how these time-hopping toads could make for a super interesting big bad for an arc of D&D. There are lots of 5e spells that let an intrepid adventurer slip into the ethereal plane, and even see into that ghostly realm beyond our own. But in earlier editions, there was a bit more of a threat to be found by those too curious about that veil between our worlds. One such creature was an ethereal filcher, one of a trio of terrible ethereal dangers that stalked the realm beyond our own. Ethereal marauders were nasty ambush predators that would hop into the prime material plane to hunt down a fresh kill. The other are ethereal theurges, Lovecraftian sorcerer worms with alien minds and a constant hunger for magical secrets and interplanar conquest. So then with such a dynamic duo, what makes the Filcher so special? Well, it's not their prowess in battle. Filchers are without a doubt the weakest of the bunch. Instead, the Filcher's a kind of interplanar magpie, a thief with a furious obsession for magical artifacts. Pair that with their truly bizarre alien appearance, they kind of look like a 4-arm pogo stick, and you have a fascinating encounter just waiting to liven up a quest line. Imagine needing a magic item thought lost to time, and after a long search, ending up haggling with a bizarre plane hopper in their trove of trinkets and treasures. These are the kind of truly ridiculous and slightly annoying monsters that, in my experience, players can't help but become obsessed with. Cue 40 sessions from now and the players insisting on shopping at Blurg the Filcher's Carnival of Curiosities at every possible opportunity. D&D has a long history, and that means so too do its many worlds. The Aranea is a great example of a creature with a backstory. Without going too in-depth, in a country called Kalimshan, there was a series of fights with a group of drow that they called the Night Wars. And in an effort to infiltrate the drow lines, the Kalimshan wizards made the first Aranea, lycanthropic spider people with a capacity for magic. The rest of their story is a tragic one. When no longer of use, the Aranea were hunted and fled to the far corners of the world, eventually learning to transform into more than just drow. I can't help but imagine a whole quest with a vengeful Aranea at its heart, seeking to gather power and secrets to exact revenge on the people of this world. with little regard for how many long generations have passed since it was so viciously betrayed. Or perhaps a more friendly version in the form of a silk merchant, or an enchanter that's become familiar with the party. If they help them out of a bind and escape a hunter or two, maybe some of the treasure of that ancient struggle could be the party's. Now, here's a creature that is so silly that you can't help but want to know more. One of the planes of existence in many D&D settings is Elysium, the neutral good plane covered in a verdant landscape. This plane was once guarded by, no joke, the Gardenals, celestial defenders lifted right off of a Saturday morning cartoon. These just and honor-bound creatures looked like animal-human hybrids, almost all of which seem to be just human enough to rock a six-pack. Can you just imagine an extremely silly arc of a campaign where a group of Gardenals stranded in the Prime Plane need help fighting off a rogues gallery of equally ridiculous characters? Or maybe a more grounded journey to the fields of Elysium, seeking aid or information, and having to stand against these Ninja Turtle-style guardians in a trial by combat. A lot of these more fun and fantastical creatures have been cut in the long history of D&D, and I can't help but think that it's almost always a bit out of shame. Finally, there are the inevitables. Well, the rest of them. Some of you may be familiar with the Marut, a servant of Mechanus that hunts down those who cheat death and defends and reinforces bargains made in Sigil, the City of Doors, by dishing out auto-hit pain. No, seriously, 2 auto-hit attacks a round that deal out a devastating 60 force damage per hit. These terrible beasts, however, are only one of many inevitables. My favorites are the Karut and the Verakut. The Karut exists to hunt down people disrupting the space-time continuum. Just because you have enough power to bend time doesn't mean that there are no repercussions for doing so. Karuts lock their prey down from planar travel with their attacks and could even pursue them through time itself, though not infinitely. The Verakut, on the other hand, chased down mortals that attempted to usurp the power of the gods. The Verakut was absolutely no joke, featuring immense dispelling abilities to counter magic and access to incredible damage and utilities, the wish spell included. These guardians at the edge of our world help to answer the question of why there aren't like 1,000,000 liches and 1,000 new gods every couple years. Making any such attempt could bring these incredible creatures down around you at the drop of a hat. For my money, it's also a satisfying alternative to the counterpoints online DMs make for a spell like Wish. So when a PC tries to wish to go back in time and right a wrong, it's not some vague wordplay problem for the GM, but instead, everything freezes as a clockwork creature with an hourglass for a head appears to stop them. Do you have any favorite retro monsters that have yet to make it to the new edition? Or the new edition? If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to the channel. We upload a new video every single week. Stay foolish.